Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you're all good. My name is Charles Watts, I'm the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, and I'm joining you today for part 2 of this week's Q&A. I hope you've all enjoyed part 1. If you've seen it so far, if you haven't, please do check down there. It was a video posted on Wednesday morning, sorry, I'm just trying to work out what day it is, where I've started going through all your questions and your comments that you sent in. So part 1 is there for you to watch now if you haven't watched it already, and now we're going to get cracking on part 2. Like I said in the first part of the video, I had to split it into 2 because there's just so many questions that would have just gone on and on and on, and it would have been pretty boring. So before we get straight into this, the quick usual thank you to everyone for your support on this channel. Appreciate it as always. Loving to see the subscriber count going up and the views being strong. If you are new to this channel, you're just stumbling across it, and as I said, I'm the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, and I covered a club up and down the country, all around, trying to bring you all the latest Arsenal news, and this is one of my ways of trying to interact and answer any questions you may have on all things Arsenal. So please do find me on Twitter at Charles_Watts. Find me on Facebook as well. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will try and do my best to keep you updated with everything I hear from Arsenal and all the goings on around the club. Right, let's get going into part 2, shall we? We're going to start with a question from Gareth Joachim. Could you provide any more details on the Omar Rekik deal, and are the guys brought in for the under-23 strong prospects, or simply there to fill the gaps as we're looking to loan players? It's an interesting one, the sort of transfer strategy within the academy. Obviously, it's been led now by Lee Heron, who's the head of talent ID at the academy. He was head of football operations at the academy, but as part of the big restructure that's happened within the scouting department at that level, that was kind of led by Edu and Per Mertesacker, there was a big reappointment, and Lee Heron, former academy manager at Reading, has taken over as head of talent ID. And this summer, him and Per Mertesacker have brought in an awful lot of under-23s, which was needed because the under-23s was pretty limited, because they've sent out a lot of players on loan, as you said, Gareth. Lots of players have gone out this summer to various clubs across Europe, and plenty in the lower leagues as well, lots in League One, so they needed to fill and restock the under-23s for Steve Bold this season, and they've done that a lot. They've brought in a lot of players, like you said, Omar Rekik, you got George Lewis, Akinola as well, lots of, forget the names at the moment, but lots of players have been signed, plenty for abroad. I in terms of the Omar Rekik deal, like you said there, I mean, he's not here yet. I think he's coming in January. Arsenal agreed that deal in just before the end of the transfer deadline, but it wasn't done in time for him to join, so he's going to be joining in January, but it is all agreed and he is on his way. He's another one of these players who are going to come in and restock things for the under-23s. I do think they think they're strong prospects. A lot of people looked at it and thought, George Lewis, plucked from the Norwegian lower leagues at his age, is he really going to make it at Arsenal? But Arsenal, they're hoping he will. But if he doesn't, and if they don't, then they're, at least hoping that they can sell them on and make some money, because that's what this is all about as well. Obviously, you want players to come through from the academy and break through to the first team, but you also want to get some money for your investment as well. And Arsenal have put a lot of money into the academy over the last 5 years. They're certainly reaping the benefits of that now with some of the players who are in the first team. But you also want to make some money back, and if you can improve some players and sell them on for profit, and that's the plan, and that's kind of what Arsenal are looking to do as well at the moment. But always the ultimate goal is for those players to progress through to the first team. So it'll be interesting to see if any of this current batch that have been brought in this summer managed to do that. Let's go with Alan Scanlon. Who's your favourite or best Irish player, North or South, to play for Arsenal? God, that's a question. I mean, I never saw Liam Brady play, but in sort of live. But I mean, what a player! What an amazing player for Arsenal. And it's impossible not to love Liam just from the videos, and everyone that speaks to him, my dad, speaks to him about Liam Brady. I think the ones I've seen, I mean, I love David O'Leary as a player. When I first started going to Arsenal, O'Leary was there, coming towards the end of his amazing career at Arsenal. So, I had an awful lot of time for David O'Leary. So I can't really think who I'd say my favourite is. I think it'd probably have to be O'Leary, just because really I've kind of missed all the rest of them who are really coming through, who really played for the club. They were kind of a little bit before my time, but O'Leary was the one that I saw properly in the flesh and had some great experiences with. Obviously, Anfield at '89, the FA Cup win, Coca-Cola Cup win, the 1991 title winning side. So I'd probably go David O'Leary although he did kind of spoil that a little bit when he went to Leeds as manager, and how that all unfolded, certainly when they stopped Arsenal winning the league in 1999 with that Hasselbank goal at the last minute, right at the end at Ellen Road, which will still annoy me until the day I die. If you had to pick between, I can never pronounce this guy's name, Aouar, and I'm going to get this totally wrong, says Balasi, you know who I mean. Lots of you asked me that. I don't know. I'm not sure who I would pick out of those two. I think I've seen more of Aouar. I really like Aouar. I think it's a fantastic signing. I was very on board the whole Aouar train this summer in terms of joining Arsenal. So I'll probably say him, but only because I've seen more of him. So it's quite hard for me to really pick between the two. What's your opinion about Manchester United, Liverpool's project big picture? Asked Sebesen. I kind of answered this in the first one. I probably shouldn't do it again, but I'll just quickly go through it again. I think it's a terrible idea. I hate it. I think it's nothing but a power grab by the big six clubs, including Arsenal. Obviously, it's been driven by Liverpool, Manchester United, but there's no way that the big six aren't implicit in it all. And I think it's awful, opportunistic, at the worst possible time. I can understand why the Football League clubs are interested in it because, look, they're about to go bust, a lot of them, in this pandemic, and they need money and they need money fast. And the big clubs can see that, and they're just dangling it in front of their faces. But I think in the long term, these Football League clubs, if they take it, they're going to regret it, because who knows what will happen. If the big six get the power and they get the cast-in vote in all things to do with the Premier League going forward, then it's just a terrible idea. It's people, not even, not local, not with football at their heart, with business at the heart, most of them over in America, controlling English football. I think it's a terrible idea, and in 10, 20 years, we'll regret it if they take this thing now. You'll probably see the end of relegation at some point, because that's what the owners will want, because it will mean that they take away the risk of going down and having a terrible season. It just means more money to them. The gap will become bigger. The product will become worse. Hate it. So yeah, that's my thought on Project Big Picture. But I do think that the conversation is needed in terms of how money filters down to the Football League and those clubs, because I think that's vitally important, and the football pyramid should be protected in this country because it's so bloody great. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I hate it. Can't stand it. But I hope maybe it leads to something a little bit better in terms of the conversation and letting the money filter down to the clubs that need it in the lower leagues. Guna Shakir says, can you please let us know your views and also what you want to ask Mikel Arteta? What is his long-term view on Martinelli and Saliba, considering the most highly rated young ones along with the club? I'm not sure I understand your question there. In terms of my views on Martinelli and Saliba, look, I love Martinelli. I can't wait to see him back in action. I thought he was fantastic last season. What a first season for a kid coming over at that age from Brazil. Really a shame he got his injury. But I think he's a fantastic player. I can't wait to see what he's got to offer once he gets fit again. In terms of Saliba, it's tough because I just haven't seen enough of him. I've spoken to people in France who rave about him, who think he's brilliant, think he's a fantastic prospect, but we haven't seen it at Arsenal yet for whatever reason. But I think we will, and I'm very excited about Saliba. I think long-term, touchwood, he's going to be an absolute star here, but just needs to find his feet, he needs to settle, he needs to adjust, and then you're going to hopefully see the best of William Saliba. And from the people that I speak to and people that I trust in terms of their football knowledge and expertise, they rave about him. I remember speaking to Bakary Sagna, and let's face it, Sagna's one of the best defenders we've seen at Arsenal in the last decade or so, 2 decades even, and he loved him, thought he was fantastic, and said he's going to be an absolute star. So those are the sort of people that I trust when I'm talking about a player and a prospect. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about Saliba. C asks, I'd like to know your opinion on Mesut Ozil. Is there a chance for him in the field at least once more? I don't think so. I think I'm not going to get into Mesut because I've spoken about him a lot, but in terms of will we see him again at Arsenal, look, it's looking unlikely. He's not in the Europa League squad. Pretty much certain he's not going to be in the Premier League squad at least till January, and I can't see that he's going to suddenly be reinstalled into the Premier League squad once the January transfer window shuts. So looking very likely that we won't see Mesut Ozil in an Arsenal shirt again. James Freestone says, are Stat DNA more involved in the recruitment process? We lost a key individual to them, to FIFA and Wenger. Yeah, we did. And due to Raul's contracts-led approach, has the relationship improved with Edu and Arteta? how much input came from StatDNA on the signings of Partey and the youth recruits. In terms of Partey, I mean, they would have used StatDNA, but there was very much a recruitment-led operation. Francis Cagao, obviously now sacked, or let go, however you want to say it, has been after Partey and has laid the foundations for this signing for the last couple of years, just as he did with Gabriel. So basically, Arsenal's signings this summer have been signings that have been pretty much set up and pushed by the old scouting network, which has now been let go. So StatDNA, although they've played a part in it, they're very much signings made by Francis Cagao. In terms of the relationship, look, Edu said it himself, he wants to work very closely with StatDNA. That's why he decided during his review of the recruitment network, why he decided to let so many of them go, and so many key figures like Cagao, I always get his names wrong, Brian McDermott, Peter Clark, people like that. So look, I think the relationship is good, and it's going to need to be, because that's what Arsenal are going to rely on now when it comes to scouting and recruitment. So it's going to need to be good. I'm not sure I agree with it, but that's the way it's going now under Edu. So many questions about Mesut Ozil here. I'm not going to go through them all, because, like I said, I've been through them and I've already answered. So if I'm not answering you, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's just because I've answered it elsewhere. Someone called Ish or Vish says, are Arsenal looking to bring someone in from the Championship like Buendia as the window is still open? The window is still open. It shuts on Friday. I'm not expecting Arsenal to do any business in the window between now and then, apart from possible outgoings. In terms of Buendia, I think he's a really exciting player. I'm surprised he's still at Norwich. He's a player that Arsenal and many clubs have looked at. But in terms of, are Arsenal going to try and get him in before Friday? No, I don't think so. It's just not going to happen. It's too late in the window, and I'd be very, very surprised if they suddenly pulled a rabbit out of the hat, and went for Emiliano Buendia this late on in the domestic window. Intriguing to see if he does get a move, how he does in the Premier League in a side who see more of the ball than Norwich did. I thought he did pretty well for Norwich, even though they were pretty dreadful when they were in the Premier League. And like I said, I'm surprised no one's picked him up yet. But in terms of Arsenal, I doubt it. I think Arsenal's business has been done after the Partey arrival. Jonas says, opinion, Granit Xhaka will still be a key player for our side when Thomas is integrated in the starting 11. And more so, he will thrive from Partey being alongside him. Interesting opinion. Jonas, I tend to agree. I really do like the idea of Ceballos and Thomas next to each other, I have to say. But, I think Xhaka and Thomas as well is a partnership that can work very, very well. I know that Thomas is very interested, very excited to play alongside Granit Xhaka. And I think when you look at sort of midfield pivot, the two of them could be very good. Obviously great on the ball, both of them. Thomas is going to be more dynamic than Xhaka. He's probably going to get forward a little bit more with his ability to run with the ball, and how his energy and just how quick he is between the lines, which is something Xhaka's not the most mobile. But I think it's an exciting midfield, and it'll be interesting to see how Mikel Arteta goes with it. Is it going to be 4-3-3? Is it going to be 4-2-3-1? It's going to be very intriguing to see how things shape up at Arsenal and evolve over the next 6 weeks or so following the arrival of Thomas, who has his first training session later on today. This is, or by the time you watch this, it's going to be yesterday, because I'm probably putting this video out on Thursday morning. Let's have a look. Just looking through these all now, lots of them I've already answered. There's no point me going through them all. Andy says, what role do you think Ceballos will play this season? He appears to be our most creative midfielder. Can you see him in the fulcrum of midfield 3 with Xhaka and Partey in a more defensive holding roles? Kind of following on from the last question and the last answer, really. I think it's just going to be intriguing in terms of, will it be 4-3-3? Will it be 4-2-3-1? If it's 4-3-3, I think that midfield 3 is pretty certain. It will be Ceballos, Xhaka and Thomas. You'd imagine Ceballos will be the further forward, the more advanced of the 3, possibly in the tip of them, if that's how they're going to operate. I'd imagine Partey on the right of the 2 and Xhaka on the left. It sounds like a 3 that would work very, very well. But I like Ceballos quite deep as well. I do like him in that deeper role. I'm not sure about him. Certainly not as a 10. I don't think Ceballos is a 10. I think maybe as an 8, he's good at that. But I like him in deeper role. I think Arsenal have benefited from him playing fairly deep since the restart, certainly. So it's intriguing, like I said in the last answer, just how Arteta is going evolve things now that Thomas has arrived. It's going to give him so many more options and adaptability having him there, because he can play so many different roles in the midfield. And I think Szoboszlai is going to flourish next to him. I think the midfield is going to look better with Thomas next to him, because when you bring in better players around you look better. And I'm not saying that Szoboszlai and Xhaka are not good, because I think they are, but I think the game hopefully is going to be taken up to another level by the arrival of a player of the quality of Thomas. Another question about Buendia, I'm not going to answer that. Any hope of Tierney and Aubameyang playing against Man City? It says, I'm going to get this wrong. Houssem, I think the name, Houssem Gideon. Tierney, don't think so. Haven't had an update from Arsenal and Tierney's situation for a while. Last time I spoke to someone at the club about it, they were pretty resigned to the fact he was going to have to stay in his isolation up in Scotland for 2 weeks, and that obviously means he'll miss the Manchester City game. In terms of Aubameyang, he's fine. He's been training. He's had a slight ankle injury. That's why he didn't go over Gabon in the international break. But he's been training at Arsenal. He didn't go because of precaution. He'll be fine for Manchester City. But Tierney, looking unlikely that he will play against Man City. We've got a press conference for Mikel Arteta tomorrow. Actually, again, by the time you watch this, it's going to be today, because I think the press conference is on Thursday morning. And we'll speak to Arteta about that. We'll get a better outlook, better picture of exactly what the situation is with Tierney. But last I heard, the information I had was that Tierney was still up in Scotland, and that the Scottish government didn't want to be seen to give him preferential treatment to a celebrity footballer, high profile name, and so he's going to have to adhere to the same rules that everyone else has to. And I suppose when you look at it like that, that's only fair. So that's the situation as we see it so far. Has the PSG physio joined officially yet? Thanks, Charles, says Stephen Vella. No, as far as I'm aware, he has not. That was something that the club were looking at. I never had any confirmation that it was done, and a done deal, that he was going to be coming in. It's certainly something they were exploring and looking at, but as of yet, I don't think he's on board yet. So whether that changes in the next month or so, we'll have to wait and see. Another question about Buendia. A lot of people are interested about Buendia. Where Arsenal likely to finish this season, says the modern Medici. Where Arsenal going to finish this season? Here we go, putting my cards on the table. I think Arsenal are going to finish... I think they're going to get top four. I think Thomas Partey is going to make Arsenal into a top four club. I think he's going to improve them so much, not just defensively, not just as in terms of protecting the defence, but I think going forward as well, he is going to improve Arsenal, make them a much, much better side in all areas of the pitch. So if he can stay injury free and Aubameyang stays injury free, I think Arsenal are going to finish fourth. I think Liverpool are going to win it. I think Manchester City will be second. Then I do, as much as I hate to say it, I think Spurs might get third. I think Mourinho's built a decent enough team there. It just depends how good they are defensively. But I think up front, if they stay fit, I think Kane, Son and Bale, it's a very good forward line. It just depends if defensively if they're any good or not at Tottenham. But I think Arsenal and Tottenham are going to be very, very close. And it could be either of them finish third or fourth. But I think Arsenal will finish in the top four this season. That's what I'm saying. Sayan says, what should we be doing as a team more often to ensure that Pepe receives most of the passes further forward and can have a run at defenders? Well, I think we saw when he has space to run into, as we saw against Sheffield United, he's absolutely ruthless, Nicolas Pepe, especially on his left foot. And that's what Arsenal are going to do. The problem Arsenal have is that they're a slow team in the build. They've been fairly slow in the build-up. Unless they plan that real counter-attack when they beat the press, like we've seen, and the long ball gets sprayed across to Aubameyang. They've been pretty quick on those rare counter-attacks, but on the whole, Arsenal are pretty slow in the build-up. It's a lot of sideways passing, backwards passing, patient passing, and it's worked. They still score goals like that. We've seen some excellent team goals, but it just means that Pepe doesn't have too much space to run into because the other teams get back fairly quickly. I think Thomas Partey's arrival will help massively with that, because finally you've got a player who can transition the ball from defence to attack very, very quickly. He's fast, Thomas Partey. He's really athletic. He can go from box to box, and that's only going to help Nicolas Pepe, because if suddenly you've got a player who can stride out quickly and then play the ball into space when the defence isn't set, then Nicolas Pepe is going to really benefit from that. So I think the arrival of Partey will be very good in that regard. Bestie said, was there any interest in bringing Max Aarons to the club? Seems such a shame seeing him still at Norwich. Also, can you plug at Cannon Chatter? There you go. There's a plug at Cannon Chatter. In terms of Max Aarons, he's a player that a lot of clubs were looking at this summer. I know he was keen on a move. He was changing his agent to try and get a move. Obviously, it hasn't happened for him. There was plenty of interest, but it didn't happen. There was interest from big clubs across Europe in him, but it hasn't happened. I mean, still a couple of days yet left for him to secure a move to the Premier League. Whether that happens, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure it will. Arsenal, I mean, look, they got Hector Bellerin, they brought Cedric Suarez in, so they're pretty set for a right back. So I'm not sure there was ever any real chance of that happening this summer, unless Hector Bellerin had left. C says, tell me 3 names. Who's your favourite player in Arsenal? If you're talking about players, my favourite ever players at Arsenal, Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, and Ian Wright. I would say, love the forwards. Wrighty was my absolute hero growing up. Bergkamp's the best player I've ever seen. Henry's the greatest player I've ever seen, which sounds weird, but I think if you're an Arsenal fan, you can kind of understand that. In terms of Dennis Bergkamp had everything. He was just beautiful footballer. He was so pure. It was just football the right way, and that's why I always say he's just all round the best player I've ever seen. But in terms of sheer excitement and explosiveness, Thierry Henry was just something absolutely remarkable. But Ian Wright was my hero growing up. Posters all across the room of Ian Wright in my bedroom growing up. All my tops had Wright 8 on the back. He was just my hero. So they're my 3 favourite Arsenal players. But it's so hard. I mean, look, you got Tony Adams, Robert Pires, all those players from back then. Freddie, there was just so many of them. Patrick Vieira. Do you think Mesut Ozil is a club legend? Says Onday. No, I don't think he's a club legend. I think he's been a very good player for Arsenal. Really enjoyed having him here. But club legend, no, not for me. Neil says, hi Charles, what are your thoughts on players like Ozil and Socrates choosing to stay at Arsenal for the money because they like being in London, even though Edu has claimed he told them in advance that they won't be picked to play? Shouldn't footballers play football? I mean, yes, you'd think so, but they've got every right to stay and see out their contracts. Arsenal gave them those contracts. They're on very good money. You've got to remember, they're in the middle of a pandemic at the moment. Not a great time to be moving. Not going to be great offers on the table for other clubs in terms of wages, in terms of packages to get these players out of Arsenal. So they're perfectly in their, they've got they can do what they want. So I'm not going to sit there and point a finger at them and blame them if they're going to stay. Obviously, it'd have been good for Arsenal if they'd have got them out the door, but so Arsenal gave them the contract, and if the players decide to stay, then Arsenal have got to honour those contracts. So I'm certainly not going to have a go at them for doing it. Agin says, do you think that international football is not appropriate today where the risk of players to acquire COVID gets higher? Yes, this international break's been stupid. We've just seen Ronaldo's got it. Probably going to see a lot more players get it as well. It just seems an unnecessary risk for me, but I'm sure international managers will say very, very different. Kurdit says, hi Charles, could you explain the homegrown players rule? I've heard different things, don't quite understand. Basically, you've got to have 8 homegrown players in your squad who are over 21. So 17 players are allowed to be non-homegrown, but you've got to have 8 homegrown players in your squad who are over the age of 21. And that's it, really. You can have as many players as you want who are under 21, but over the age, you've got to have 8 homegrown players. Average, the leverage says, will Arteta play Orbit in the middle? I think it's completely underutilised on the flank. Look, I tend to agree. I really liked that formation at the end of the Sheffield United game when you had Pepe on the right, Willian at 10, Saka on the left, and Orbit up front. I thought it worked really well, and Arsenal looked really threatening. So yeah, I would be happy to see it. I can understand why Lacazette starts there. I think he holds the ball up well, he brings others into play well, maybe a lot better than Aubameyang does, but I think ultimately when your team like Arsenal who struggle to score goals, you need as many players on the pitch who can score as possible, and I think Nicolas Pepe is very much a player who can score you goals or set players up, so you need him playing. I don't really like seeing Pepe on the bench, so I'd like to see Willian playing in a more central role, which allows Nicolas Pepe to play on the right hand side. I think we're coming up towards the end of this now. I'm just heading down. Samuel says here, what's the situation with Reece Nelson? When there were loan deals that broke down for him, going to be a tough season for him now, a lack of opportunities. Yeah, it's an interesting one with Reece. There was certainly an opportunity for him to go out on loan this season. I don't think the injury that he's just picked up has helped him with that regard. There's still a couple of days left, and there's certainly interest in Reece Nelson from a fair few clubs, and they could do something before Friday. But the latest really from coming out of Arsenal was it looked like he was probably going to stay. He was certainly going to be used in the Europa League. We saw him play against Leicester in the first Carabao Cup game. He was injured against Liverpool, so he couldn't play in that one. But he's a player that Arteta really, really rates. It is going to be tough for him, though. You've got Pepe, you've got Willian now, so it's going to be tough for Reece Nelson to get opportunities at the moment. I kind of felt like a loan deal would have been really beneficial for him this season. Bit of a shame, like I said, he got that injury, but it looks like, as it stands right now, it's more likely that he's going to stay than go out on loan before Friday's deadline. Yeah, I think we're coming to the end now. I'm just looking through, seeing if there's any more. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done. Just scrolling through in case I've missed anything that I could answer before shutting this down. But I think we're coming to the end of it now. Every single one of these that I'm looking through now are all questions that I've really answered. Plenty on Ozil, plenty on Saliba. But they're all pretty much questions that we've covered in the last couple of videos. One last little scroll. No, we're done. I think that's it. So thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it as always. Please do see part 1 of the Q&A if you haven't seen it yet. It's down there somewhere in all the other videos. Like I said earlier, Mikel Arteta speaking to the press on Thursday morning ahead of game against Manchester City. I'll be in that press conference and I will report from it. Please do head over to goal.com for all your latest Arsenal news. Check out my social media accounts for all the news as it happens, and I will try and record a video after the press conference just to update you on it. Also, have a very good day, people. Enjoy the rest of your week as we head towards the end of the international break and the return to action of Arsenal at Manchester City on Saturday. Till next time, people, enjoy your day.